My fiancée's sister called me boring and talked her into leaving for Europe. When she was dumped and left broke, she came crawling back. Hey Reddit, I'm going through a weird situation and not sure if I handled it the best way. So, my fiancée, let's call her Jessica, recently called off our engagement and decided to move abroad. This all happened after her older sister Susan, who's into the whole social media influencer scene, started hanging out with Jessica a lot and filling her head with all these ideas about the life she should be living. Jessica and I had been together for 4 years and engaged for the last one. I thought things were great, we were saving for a house, planning our future, all that typical stuff. Sure, we had our little arguments like any couple, but nothing major. I have a steady job with decent pay and good potential for growth, and Jessica was working at a local company. We were comfortable and, I thought, happy. Susan is a few years older than Jessica and always seems to be living it up, traveling, posting pics from fancy places, and hanging out with people who have lots of money. She calls herself a lifestyle guru or something like that. I always thought she was a bit too focused on appearances, but she's Jessica's sister, so I tried to be polite. Susan never seemed to like me much. She'd make comments about my job not being exciting or our town being too small. About 6 months ago, Susan came to stay with her parents, so she was around a lot more. She started taking Jessica out to fancy restaurants and buying her designer clothes that I knew Jessica couldn't really afford. She kept going on about her amazing life, telling Jessica about yacht parties, trips to Dubai, and all the important, wealthy people she knew. She pointed out that Jessica was young and beautiful and shouldn't settle down so early, and that she could have a more glamorous and exciting life. At first, Jessica would laugh it off or defend me and our plans. But slowly, I noticed her changing. She started criticizing our life. My job was boring, our apartment was too small, our friends were dull. She kept comparing everything we had to Susan's stories. She became obsessed with Susan's social media, scrolling through pics of influencers and celebrities, wishing for that lifestyle. The argument started soon after. Jessica would say things like, "Susan thinks I'm not ambitious enough." Susan apparently told her that my idea of a vacation, like camping, was boring, and Jessica should be sunbathing in the Maldives. Jessica started buying into it, saying maybe Susan was right and she was settling. I tried talking to her, reminding her of our plans and the love we shared. I explained that Susan's life seemed superficial, probably fueled by chasing rich connections, not genuine happiness. I told Jessica that real relationships are about building a life together, not just chasing glamour. I was firm about this. I loved her and our life, and I wasn't going to apologize for my career or my ambitions, which focused on stability and long-term happiness, not fleeting excitement or online approval. I also told her I thought Susan was being a bad influence, more interested in her own image and maybe wanting Jessica as a sidekick in her influencer world, rather than caring about Jessica's happiness. This led to bigger fights. Jessica said I was jealous of Susan and trying to control her, calling me insecure. Susan, of course, stoked the fire, taking Jessica out after our arguments, probably convincing her that I was the problem. Jessica started spending more time with Susan and less with me. When she was home, she was distant, usually on her phone looking at travel sites or expensive brands Susan recommended. 2 weeks ago, Jessica told me she was done. She said Susan showed her there was a bigger world out there, and she needed to experience it. She broke off the engagement, planning to move to Europe, specifically a city known for its party scene and rich tourists. Susan had contacts there to help Jessica start over. Jessica said I was a good guy, but not the right one for her new life. She needed someone who could match her vibrancy and support her dreams of a more luxurious lifestyle. Of course, I was hurt and angry, but I didn't beg or promise to change my whole life to fit some fantasy Susan sold her. I told Jessica she was making a big mistake, chasing a shallow dream that wouldn't end well, and throwing away something real for something superficial. So here's the deal. One time, things got pretty intense with Jessica. She was super mad at me just because I said something about not really knowing her sister or what she really wanted. She started yelling that Susan was the only one who really got her and saw her potential. The next day, she was already packing her stuff, and instead of trying to make her stay, I just helped her load her boxes into her parents' car. Her dad swung by to pick up some of her things. I kept my cool and didn't make a scene. No yelling or crying, I just told her I accepted her choice, even if I didn't agree, and wished her luck, though I wasn't really sure she'd find what she was after. I think she was a bit surprised I wasn't fighting for her to stay. Maybe she expected me to fall apart or something. Susan was there, too, with this smug look, bossing Jessica around about what to pack and what to toss. Every now and then, she'd drop in snide comments about all the junk Jessica had collected while living with me. I just tuned Susan out. Jessica fully moved out last week, and let me tell you, the place feels empty. Some of our mutual friends were shocked by the whole thing, while others, mostly the ones who are tight with Susan, thought Jessica did the right thing. My family's been supportive but also think I'm better off without someone who's so easily swayed. So, Reddit, was I wrong for not fighting harder for my relationship? Should I have gone all out with grand gestures, maybe promised her the moon or convinced her I could be the guy Susan wanted for her? Part of me thinks if someone can be that easily convinced to leave by their sister's fantasies, then maybe the relationship wasn't as solid as I thought. Fighting would have just dragged things out or turned me into someone I'm not. But then there's this other part that wonders if I just gave up too easily on someone I loved. Update time: it's been 3 months since Jessica took off. I've read through all the comments and judgments on my initial post, and most people said I wasn't the jerk and handled the situation as best I could, considering how set Jessica was on leaving because of Susan's influence. Reading your perspectives really helped affirm my actions, or rather, my decision not to beg her to stay. So, what's been happening since? Jessica did end up moving abroad. I haven't snooped on her, but our mutual friends and Susan's posts keep me in the loop. It looks like she's constantly partying and hanging out with new people. Susan was right there with her for the first few weeks, and her social media feeds were packed with photos from trendy clubs and exclusive events with what seemed like a bunch of rich folks. Susan tagged everything with motivational stuff like showing my sis how to live her best life or freedom looks good on you, Jessica. It was all super planned out, fitting Susan's influencer style perfectly. Jessica posted some stuff too, mostly selfies with Susan looking thrilled. About a month after she left, I got the final utility bill for the apartment, which was still under both our names. It was unexpectedly high because of some lengthy international calls made to the country Jessica moved to, right before she left. She never told me about those calls and just left me to handle the bill. It wasn't a huge deal, a couple of $100, but it was the principle of it. Instead of clearing things up before leaving, she just split. I paid it and switched the account to my name alone. It was just another sour reminder of how things ended. I also had to sort out a few subscriptions tied to her cards but billed to her address that she hadn't canceled or redirected, just more evidence that her mind was solely on her new life and not on the leftovers she was leaving for me to clean up. A mutual acquaintance, someone who's more on Jessica's side, hit me up about 6 weeks ago asking if I'd heard from Jessica. I said no. They mentioned she was having a blast and getting all these new opportunities. It seemed like they were trying either to make me feel bad or see how I'd react. I just said, good for her, and left it at that. Susan keeps flexing her lavish lifestyle online, but Jessica's not popping up as much in her posts as she used to. Susan's content is all about her new designer stuff, her trips, and her high-class friends. Jessica's sometimes in the background of group shots but isn't the main focus of Susan's look how great our life is show anymore. Not sure if that means anything, but it's just something I've noticed. I haven't tried reaching out to Jessica. I don't feel the need to. The initial sting has mostly faded into disappointment and a realization that maybe the Jessica I thought I knew was either a version from before Susan's heavy influence or perhaps she was always prone to getting swept up in this kind of life. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. And hit the notification bell to stay updated with more crazy real-life stories happening around you. Hey everyone, so here's what's been going on with me. You know, I never really saw that whole thing with Jessica and her sister Susan coming. But I'm not just sitting around waiting for her. I'm busy living my life, making progress in my own way. I'm sticking to my decision not to grovel or change myself to meet Susan's shallow standards. If Jessica wanted that kind of life, she can have it. And for those wondering, nope. I haven't started dating again. I'm not even looking, I'm just doing my thing and focusing on myself, letting life unfold naturally. It's been pretty nice, actually, no more fights about not being ambitious enough or not wanting to dress up for those fancy parties. I've been putting my camping gear to good use instead. Update time. So, it's been about 8 months since my first post and 5 months since my last update. Quite a bit has happened, and I'm questioning whether my recent choices were justified or maybe a bit harsh. Let me catch you up, in case you're new here. My ex-fiancée Jessica left me, allured by this supposedly fabulous life overseas, heavily influenced by her influencer sister Susan. I didn't beg her to stay, I just started moving forward with my life. Since I last updated, things have been going pretty well for me. I landed a promotion at work, which was awesome. I've been hiking almost every weekend and got into the best shape I've been in years. Honestly, I've been feeling great, settled, and looking forward to the future. I didn't hear anything directly from Jessica, and Susan's social media was the usual flashy stuff. Jessica was barely in any of Susan's posts anymore, just like I thought would happen, she seemed to fade into the background of Susan's world. Then, about a month ago, word got around through some mutual friends that Susan was engaged. It wasn't on her main social media at first, more like she told a few people, and then someone else shared a pic from a private engagement party. Turns out Susan got engaged to a wealthy older businessman she'd been seeing secretly for a while. The interesting bit was that Jessica wasn't in any of the party photos or congratulations notes flying around Susan's circle. It seemed like Susan was moving on with her rich fiancé, leaving Jessica behind. Right when Susan's engagement news started spreading, Jessica reached out. She sent me a hey in my DMs, on a platform we rarely use but we're still connected on. I ignored it. Then came another message, can we talk? Ignored that too. Then she sent a longer message saying things weren't what she expected, that she missed me, and things were rough. Still, I didn't reply. I felt nothing, no urge to respond or comfort her. My feelings had pretty much dried up. The messages kept coming, getting more desperate. She said Susan basically used her to look more interesting for a while and then ditched her when the wealthy guy came along. She hinted her financial situation abroad sucked and that the party lifestyle had lost its charm fast when Susan's support disappeared. She admitted she messed up. Even so, I didn't reply. I talked it over with a close friend who said I owed her nothing. My take was she made her choices clear. She picked Susan's flashy vision over what we had, so she can deal with the fallout, including being left behind by the sister who led her down that path. Meanwhile, Susan finally went public with her engagement on her main social media. It was over the top and full of professional photos, gushing about her king and their new empire. As you'd expect, there was no mention of Jessica. A day or two later, Susan posted some vague philosophical stuff about outgrowing people and moving on from those who don't vibe with your higher self. Felt like a subtle kiss-off aimed at Jessica and others, and I couldn't help but see it that way. After seeing Susan's posts and Jessica's increasingly desperate messages, I made a call. I went on all my social media and blocked both Jessica and Susan. I also blocked their numbers. I just want to completely shut that chapter of my life. Jessica's messages were starting to feel like drama I didn't want, and Susan's online presence is something I'm really not into seeing anymore, even by accident. I'm moving forward, and blocking them was just something I needed to do. So, I've been doing my best to keep my peace and not get dragged back into any chaos. It's not like I wish Jessica any harm, but I'm also not feeling guilty about where she is right now. She left, and I let her go, and now I'm just moving further away. Fast forward about 4 months since I blocked Jessica and Susan, and life's been pretty awesome. The most exciting thing? I'm dating someone new, Carla. She's absolutely amazing. We met at a hiking group through a friend, and it just clicked. Carla's a vet who loves the outdoors, super kind, and just a real down-to-earth person. Our relationship's been unfolding at this really nice, easy pace, and it feels great. It's all about mutual respect and genuine feelings, which is such a breath of fresh air after all that drama with Jessica. Oh, and Carla knows about my past with Jessica, not every little detail, but enough to understand the gist. Anyway, 2 weeks ago, guess what? The past literally came knocking. It was a chill Saturday afternoon, and the doorbell rings. I wasn't expecting anyone, but it was Jessica. She looked different. I almost didn't answer, but I figured it was better to just face it. She seemed shocked to see me, then started spilling everything. Apparently, things went south overseas after Susan ditched her. She went on about how Susan ghosted her, took her off social circles, and left her high and dry. All her grand plans crumbled, and she was feeling really lost and alone. She started crying, saying she messed up, big time, and was hoping to patch things up with me. She said she realized I was the only one who really cared about her and blamed Susan for turning her against me. As she poured her heart out, I just listened. When I finally got a chance to speak, I told her straight up that I felt for her, but we weren't getting back together. I've moved on. I reminded her that she made those choices and that walking away was her call, not mine. Plus, I'm happy with someone else now. That's when things got tense, her tears dried up, and she got all defensive. She accused me of moving on too fast, saying our 4-year relationship should have meant more. She had the nerve to trash talk Carla and call her a downgrade. She kept raising her voice, claiming I was being cruel for not taking her back. I remained firm and told her my relationship with Carla was none of her business, and I wasn't going to let her disrespect Carla. I made it clear that her problems now were because of her decisions and Susan's influence. I stood my ground and told her to leave my property, and if she didn't, I'd call the police. That finally got through to her. She started crying again, but this time out of anger and frustration, said I was heartless, and stormed off, looking a mix of beaten and furious. Closing that door was tough, but it reassured me I'd made the right move in letting things go. Hey everyone. Just wanted to share a bit more about what went down and wrap up this wild story. So, a while back, I had to block Jessica because things were just getting too toxic. I told Carla about it later that day, and she was super supportive. She said I did the right thing and had every reason to protect my happiness. This whole ordeal actually made me appreciate Carla even more and really convinced me that I want a future with her, far away from all the Jessica and Susan drama. For my final update, here's what happened. It's been about 6 months since Jessica showed up unannounced on my doorstep. Thanks to everyone on Reddit for your advice, it really helped me process everything. After that showdown at my place, Jessica didn't back off quietly. Her sense of entitlement just went through the roof. A few days after I turned her away, Carla and I were having dinner at one of our favorite local spots, and guess who showed up? Yup, Jessica. She must have been keeping tabs on me or something. She made a scene at our table, accusing me of leaving her in the lurch, which was absurd. She even started insulting Carla, calling her a homewrecker, even though my thing with Jessica was long over by the time I met Carla. It was unbelievably embarrassing, but Carla handled it like a champ and suggested we leave. Jessica tried to stop us, even grabbed my arm, but the restaurant manager had to step in and tell her to leave. She stormed out, yelling that I'd regret it and that I owed her something. The harassment didn't stop there, though. For weeks, I got random calls from unknown numbers. When I'd pick up, it was mostly silence, but sometimes it was Jessica going from crying to raging in seconds when I wouldn't engage. She even reached out to my friends and family, trying to paint herself as the victim and me as the villain. Thankfully, they all knew the real story and didn't buy into it. The worst part was when Jessica tracked down where Carla worked. She showed up at Carla's veterinary clinic pretending she had a sick pet, just to get a moment alone with Carla. Jessica tried to convince her that I was some manipulative jerk and still in love with her, but Carla saw right through it and told Jessica to leave. That incident really shook Carla, and it made me livid. After that, I consulted a lawyer. We sent Jessica a cease and desist letter warning her that we'd take legal action if she didn't stop harassing us. Through all this drama, my bond with Carla only got stronger. We supported each other through the chaos, and her calm strength was incredible. We even started making serious plans for our future, houses, marriage, the whole 9 yards. What I once thought I had with Jessica, I now know is real with Carla. A couple of months ago, Jessica made one last attempt. She went straight to my parents' house, unannounced, with a dramatic story about being homeless because I wouldn't take her back. She begged them to get me to forgive her or at least help her out financially. My folks are kind-hearted and felt bad seeing her like that, so they gave her some money for a meal and a temporary place to stay. But they also made it clear that I've moved on and she needed to leave me and Carla alone. They advised her to get help, either from Susan or professionally. Jessica had a meltdown right there in the driveway, tossing the money aside and calling my parents heartless before my dad had to firmly tell her to leave before he called the police. That was the last we heard from her directly. I heard through the grapevine that she eventually went back to her hometown. She's apparently struggling with a low-wage job and is pretty isolated. Susan, on the other hand, is living it up, married and wealthy, with no signs of helping her sister. It's clear that the relationship between them is non-existent. And that's the end of it. Thanks again for all the support.